the
So
UN
yeah,
Most
everybody.
Influential People of African Descent Week. The group known as MIPAD is partnering with our parent company, Warner Media, and their goal is to recognize people of African descent from around the world who are making a difference in their communities. The Global 100 lists were unveiled during a ceremony on Sunday. It was hosted by One World anchor Zain Asher, who's back soon, and she was also among those who were honored.
The idea of this kind of platform, MIPAD, that aims to showcase the contributions of people from African descent all over the world is hugely personal to me.
Time now for the exchange and a look at this year's theme, Amplifying Global Black Narratives. Camille Olufowobi is founder and CEO of Most Influential 100. I spoke with him earlier about why this international recognition is so important. Camille, it's a fascinating list. I've seen people from former President Barack Obama, who gets a lifetime achievement, to the British footballer Marcus Rashford, to the Senegalese-Italian TikTok star Kaby Lame, who's one of my favorites. What's the criteria for making it on this list?
Thank you, first and foremost, Larry, for having me on. And I want to say congratulations to you for also making this list of the most influential people of African descent.
Thank you. That's very kind.
Absolutely. You are in the 100, under 40 category. And what we're celebrating or, doing in partnership in support of the United Nations is to recognize people of African descent from all over the world, sometimes in unexpected places, right? So that's what I always like to say it's not an award, it's a recognition, which is the first pillar of the International Decade for People of African Descent. So as long as you're working in contribution to the collective, right, and to support humanity, that's what makes you, a nominee for our global list.
You have 10 categories from governments to education to TV and film. Why do you draw the line? Why is it not an award and it's recognition? What is the difference for you?
Right. The difference is because we're working, on the UN resolution that declared the International Decade for People of African Descent. And the first pillar of that is recognition. And the task that we have had is to scout, look around the world and find people of African descent who are making positive contributions and highlight them every year. So we've had the privilege of doing that since the decade started, 2015, right? Every year, just highlighting and showcasing, excellence around the world exhibited by people of African descent in line with the decade. What is interesting this year, 2021, is that the United Nations declared 2021 as the International Year for the Creative Economy, which is why you made the list, because you're in the creative space. So what I'm really excited about is this special edition that we created, which is the most influential creatives of African descent.
I would not necessarily agree that I'm one of the most influential creatives of African descent, but thank you for the recognition. Some people would also disagree, but it's nice to be recognized. I will say that for sure. What was fascinating for me going through this list is we come in so many different shades. I counted on your website 16 different categories: African American, Afro Caribbean, Continental African, Afro Cuban, and when you talk about amplifying global Black voices, this has got to be, how is that connected?
So amplifying global Black narratives is a thing for this year. And the reason why we go with that is that we exist all over the world, sometimes in unexpected places. And it's okay to be dispersed around the world, but what is not okay is the disconnection. So where we're stepping in is building this ecosystem, right? Not an ecosystem of some of the best and the brightest people of African descent around the world to foster collaboration. When you look at the list, you find some of the heads of the biggest theater groups in Nigeria, in Brazil, in the UK, in South Africa, right? And what we're doing is curating a platform where they get to connect and create possibilities for the glory of Africa and its people all over the world. And that's what's exciting about the ecosystem that the list has enabled us to put together.
Race and racism, Kamel, became major global issues in the last year after the death of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter protests that followed. Did that make this recognition this year more meaningful because of that background?
Absolutely. I mean, if you looked at our recognition in 2020, it was called the Global Reckoning Edition. And what we did was to look closer at, the racial equality movement to see where people of African descent exist in high positions. And though we recognize those who are currently in those positions, but what was, really clear was the absence of people of African descent in major decision-making tables around the world, right? So yes, it's made it even more important for us to continue to highlight the positive contributions of people of African descent all over the world, not just in the U.S., not just on the African continent, but a lot of the diasporan countries. Brazil has the largest population of people of African descent outside of Africa. And India and Pakistan comes in, near second with almost 80 million plus people, Sindhis, right? And then you come back to South America and Colombia with 10, 11 million. So it's important for us to, to recognize that we are making contributions in all of these different countries around the world.
Camille, for full disclosure for our viewers, we at CNN and Warner Media, our parent company, are partners for the most influential people of African descent, and we're actually curating some experiences during Recognition Week.
Yes, absolutely. Super excited about the partnership with CNN. So CNN came on board, to amplify this International Decade for People of African Descent, right? When we recognize some of the executives at CNN who had some of the highest ranking Black people in corporate America, right? So they came on board for the next 3 years. We're going to be working with you till the end of the International Decade. And for Recognition Week this year, CNN put together a masterclass for creatives. Remember, this is the International Year for the Creative Economy. So CNN, came around and we put together a masterclass for creating documentaries targeted towards creatives, right? So that definitely was a hit during the week. And we also had a film screening of Kamal Bell's United Shades of America and Dive In with Purpose. So put together a film screening and discussions, a masterclass, and also a diversity and inclusion panel, which included some of the biggest, names in the diversity space.
All right, Camille Olufowobi, thank you for your time, sir. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Larry.
And you can learn more about all the most influential people recognized on MIPAD.org.
Okay, Jonathan, over to you.
So today, we close the International Decade for People of African Descent. So come with me as we show you the journey of MIPAD and our diplomatic missions to the United Nations in support of the International Decade for People of African Descent.
My name is Camille Olufowobi, and I speak to you today as the president of the most influential people of African descent, MIPAD. Today, as we mark the close of the first decade, we stand at a pivotal moment in history.
I would like to invite to this lectern Mr. Camille Olufowobi, CEO of MIPAD.
And I now give the floor to Mr. Camille Olufowobi, CEO of the most influential people of African descent, MIPAD.
Thank you very much. And good evening, everybody.
More connects us than separates us.
All right, fantastic.
Amazing.
Thank you, studio.
Yes, thank you, studio. It's amazing to have everyone on this session with us today. Welcome, everyone, wherever you're joining. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Now, my name is Jonathan Olufowobi. I'm the CEO here at MIPAD, which stands for Most Influential People of African Descent. And today we're having a very special global gathering. Yes, it's a global community gathering, but our focus today is on the Caribbean region. This January, we have scheduled or we have already had up to 9 different New Year's events in 9 different cities. We kicked off with London last week. We hosted the former president of Nigeria, President Obasanjo, at our event at our venue at the Africa Center. And this week, we're continuing on our series with the Caribbean region, hosting the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Terence Drew. Now, the first time we welcomed Dr. Terence Drew was in Recognition Week in 2025. And we're pleasured and we're honored to have him with us today. He will be joining very, very soon. But first, I want to kick off and get a sense of where people are joining in from. I've seen a few New York City in the chat. So if you haven't gone yet, please let us know where you're joining in from. I'm calling in from London, if you haven't told already by my accent. I'm seeing some Nigerias, Washington, D.C. My first time in Washington, D.C. was last year, September. Fantastic place. Fantastic place. Nigeria, Washington, D.C., London, New York. I know we have Trinidad. I want to see some more people posting in the chat. Whereabouts you're joining in from? Now, the initial videos we saw was an introduction to MIPAD, who we are, and shortly we'll be hearing from the Prime Minister and in our interview that we had with him in September last year. But first, I want to get a few words from people as to what's going on globally in the region that they're living in right now. Because I'm calling in from London, we're going to have a conversation about the Caribbean region, but we have a global community from 6 different continents. So we have different views on the Caribbean, but also we have different issues, different things that are going on where we are, especially with Davos that just happened as well. So we have a poll that just went up, a global gathering. What's your status? So how do you know about MIPAD? Where are you calling in from? And are you aware of the first and second decade for people of African descent? All right, we're getting some answers in. And I'm seeing someone's calling in from Canada. Someone's calling in from Dubai. I like this. This is fantastic. Also, post any questions you may have into the group chat as the session goes along so that we can answer them as well. But here's a breakdown for what's going to happen. After this introduction, we're going to go into a short video about my time in New York with the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, our personal interview. And then we're going to go into a panel session discussion. But just before we do that, I want to just grab one person at least to tell me about their region and what's going on where they are in the world. All right, I see Camille Selvon has joined. Welcome, Camille Selvon.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
And
You're calling in from where?
From the Trinidad and Tobago, of course.
Trinidad and Tobago. Amazing. How's it looking where you are? What time is it?
11 o'clock. It's
11
wonderful
o'clock.
to be here, especially as chairman for the Caribbean MIPAD team. You know, we are pretty young as far as the tribes. And I'm really happy to see Francesco because we are neighbors, Francesco, and, you know, we are in the middle of the crazy stuff that is going on. But it's really an honor to be able to sit and have meaningful conversations. So I am co-host today, and I'm really looking forward to kind of getting feedback from everyone here.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Camille. We have more MIPAD team joining. We have Crystal Cummings. You're joining in from, I know your origin, but whereabouts are you joining in from? Let us know how you're doing and where you're coming in from.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I hope my audio is okay. I am in an outdoor setting, so I hope it's not too noisy. I am actually calling in from Accra, Ghana. So I'm here in Accra, and it's amazing. For those of you that are unaware, I'm originally from Trinidad and Tobago, and I immigrated over to West Africa. I stay between Lagos and Accra. So yeah, it's amazing. The weather is amazing. And it's a pleasure to be here with all of you, wonderful, amazing people.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Crystal. And yes, you're calling in from Ghana, but you're originally from the Caribbean as well. I'm seeing Dr. Sheila Walker has joined. A big welcome to Dr. Sheila Walker, our global advisor here at MIPAD. We have Tope on, our co-founder, Camille. We have a lot of people joining. This is a global gathering. I'm seeing Australia. I want us to hit 6 different continents. We have recognized so far at MIPAD around 120 people from 120 plus different nations. So I want us to hit 6 different continents in this call. But before I continue going on, I want us to turn to the studio as we see a little bit about my conversation with the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis before he joins. So studio, please play that video. So, Mr. Prime Minister, it's a pleasure to have you at our event. And of course, we're here to celebrate you, your recognition in our most esteemed award, which is our Lifetime Achievement Award. So first of all, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And what does it mean to you to be recognized by MIPAD in a Lifetime Achievement Award?
Well, the work that I do, I just look at it as work. It is not driven by wanting to have an award. So when I got the announcement that I was being given an award for the work that I've been doing, I asked my wife, what is this about? And, and I asked her even today, and so I think I got even more clarity on it. But I feel, very pleased that there are those who have seen the work and wish to encourage me to continue the work, which I would definitely continue. So it brings a great sense of appreciation and a great sense that it is resonating. And so, if more than anything else, this award is telling me to keep going.
Fantastic. So you don't chase the awards, you just do the work and they come.
Yes.
And so that shows that you're going in the right direction. And then we also had a conversation just before this, and one of the things that we touched on is that you invest in the youth. And one of the things at MIPAD that I've introduced is a way for the youth, the next generation, to be connected to established figures like yourself. What is a few tips that you would give to the next generation of leaders who are looking to lead countries?
I would say to the next generation that the youth must be included. We need to drop the words from our conversation about the next generation and the future generations. Those are important to say. But sometimes I get the sense that this do it to really tell the youth, next year, the year after next, it's not your time. I believe in saying to the youth, that's your time is now. The youth must be at the table. If the youth is not at the table, they will be on the menu. And the youth of today will not be on the menu. Not only that, the majority of the world is youthful. And if the voices of the youth are not heard in governance, in the chambers of power, then I think the world is at a loss. So for the next generation, I will say to them, make sure that the youth is at the table.
Fantastic. And one last question on the next generation and their specific attributes that they need to succeed. You've grown to be the most senior person in your region. You're the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. What kind of characteristics does it take to achieve such heights?
Well, I think there are some basic things to take care of. I call them the small things. You have to first make sure that you are prepared, that you are well-grounded. It starts with you. And that means that you have to have that self-discipline. You have to prepare yourself, I would say, in many aspects, so that once that opportunity comes, that you are ready for it. But I would say it's not basically looking necessarily to get that opportunity. It's to prepare yourself so that when the opportunity presents itself, you are ready. Always be ready. Allow any opportunity to come. That opportunity meets you in a ready state. So I'll say to the youth, be ready. Get ready. The doors open when you least expect them, and when you are ready, you'll walk through. So I would say, don't worry about winning. And I read this in a book, can't remember the author. I don't want to pretend that it is my words, but it inspired me. Don't worry about winning. Worry about what it takes to win. And winning will take care of itself. So I said to the youths, prepare yourself, work on you, so that when opportunities present themselves, you walk through the door.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So your words are saying preparation meets opportunity, right? Amazing. Well, it's been a pleasure to have a conversation with you, Prime Minister. And I'm looking forward to celebrating your recognition.
Thank you so much.
All right, let's hold over there.
Recognizing me.
Of course.
An investment plan for our young people. It's called the Aspire. Okay. And what I do, every child get $1,000. And this was before it was done in the United States. From 5 to 18 years old. So they get a savings account and they get an opportunity to invest in companies to own shares. So from 5 years old, they will already be accumulating. And attached to that, we have put in the curriculum subject matter and financial education. So we want them to start preparing themselves from young. We have also given them free tablets, free computers, so that they can have access as well to technology and not be left behind. So in a sense, we are investing in their education, in their financial future, and giving them access to tools so that they have all that is necessary to continue to lead. Not to lead, I think they are leaders already in their own right, but to be better prepared and have what it takes to get to the next level.
Wow, I mean, you missed that one, which is that you're investing in their habits.
Yes.
Right? Because when people get money, one of the last things that they may think of is investing.
Exactly.
But you're teaching people from 5 years old to invest. It's fantastic.
And to teach them.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you also make college free. How did you offset the cost of that in policy?
Right. So what we actually did, we realized we were spending some money in education, was not properly directed. And so we harnessed that and put that into a policy framework and then donate that money directly to the college so that, in a sense, it cost us. But when we actually did the full economic impact, it is much more cost effective to give them college free than to put a barrier and not allow all of your people to attain it. So we put it in a policy framework. We're directing funding specifically to deal with it. And so that is one of the things we have been doing. Tertiary level education now is critically important, and there should be minimal barriers for our young people.
Wow, I'm really inspired by your investment into the young generation. Where does that come from?
Well, from a number of things. I, of course, was a young man and had thoughts of what would have been good to have done to help me to get to the next level, or things that I would have done to get to the next level. And then that inspired, how can we set up policies to really help all these young people? And secondly, when you look at the young generation, understanding where they're at and the potential they have, they must be better than my generation. They must have the tools necessary to make sure that they can be successful. So I am really imbued with the spirit of helping our youth to continue to lead and to get better at it. And they need the tools, and I've invested with my team in them, and I wish them well.
Wow, and I hope that what you're doing gains enough publicity to inspire other governments and countries to do the same.
Yes.
It was a. Oh, please go on.
No, I really hope so. I think it's an excellent idea. I saw they do it in the United States. They call it the Trump accounts. I think that is a brilliant investment as well. And I hope other countries can really see that investing in the financial future of the young people is one of the ways to eradicate poverty and give young people a chance to live out their fullest potential.
Amazing. I mean, I want to ask more questions, but I know that we need to celebrate you. Yes. This is your day. So it was a pleasure speaking with you, Prime Minister, and thank you so much for your time.
The Assembly will now hear an address by His Excellency Terence Michael Drew, Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance, National Security and Immigration, Health and Social Security of St. Kitts and Nevis.
It is my honor in this my second year as the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis to join with members of the global family of nations and speak on behalf of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis at home and in their diaspora.
We have embarked on a journey that signifies progress, resilience, and a steadfast commitment to the well-being of all of our people and visitors. Steadfast partnership and support. So as we look ahead to the construction of our new hospital, I want to assure the Honorable Conway Maynard that the name will remain Jane France General Hospital.
Climate and health is a significant matter, and I speak as a medical doctor as well. Climate and agriculture and food security.
Our shared vision for a resilient and sustainable nation be realized, creating a brighter and more prosperous future for St. Kitts and Nevis. Hip hip, hip hip, hip hip.
Amazing. All right, that was the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Terence Drew. So a virtual round of applause for him, everyone. He's going to be joining very, very shortly. But I also understand, I saw the responses from the poll, and I understand that not everyone knows about the International Decade for People of African Descent. This is, as an introduction, the International Decade is a decade proclaimed by the United Nations to last from 2015 initially to 2024 before they extended it for a further second decade. And its intention is to spotlight those of African descent. It has three pillars. First is recognition, justice, then development. And of course, MIPAD is working in support of the United Nations to recognize figures of African descent around the world doing amazing things. So we spotlight at MIPAD amazing people of African descent in 6 different continents. And so far, we've recognized around 2,000 different honorees. We build a community of these figures, but we also celebrate these figures as well. And so the Prime Minister was with us in New York, where we do our annual recognition ceremony, where we gather our global community, those who have been recognized by MIPAD, together in New York to experience their recognition. Now, as we built this established community, as you've heard in the video with the Prime Minister, we aim to bridge the gap for the next generation, provide opportunities for the upcoming generation, or the generation that is now, like he said. We need to stop using the term next generation. And so we have these established figures within our community, and we provide the opportunities and access for them to access and gain the knowledge and wisdom from these established figures. So is that the Prime Minister joined us in September in New York and met some of these next generation or current generation figures. And that's exactly what we're facilitating here at MIPAD. So if you have not been recognized by MIPAD, I see some honorees on, but if you have not been recognized by MIPAD, please visit our nomination site, which is mipad.org/nominate. And that should be typed in the chat very, very soon. But I want to say a big welcome to our global community. Francis, yes, Australia is calling in as well. Thank you so much for joining. Australia, we have Africa, we have Europe, we have South America with Sue Ellen in Brazil, we have North America. I want us to hit 5 continents. I want us to hit 6 continents. We're currently at 5. So anyone from Asia, please shout your name out so that I can give you a shout out as well. But thank you so much for joining so far. Now, I want us to keep going with this conversation. Drop any comments or questions that you may have into the group chat or into the Q&A section. And then we will continue our discussion. But first, this conversation is about the Caribbean region. What is going on in the Caribbean? Like I said, we've had cities, 9 different New Year's lunches or events in 9 different cities. And our focus today is the Caribbean region. Now, from the outside looking in, I'm calling in from the UK. And the Caribbean seems to be characterized by turbulence, uncertainty, perhaps, potential for war. And so I want to welcome our esteemed panelists who are going to be joining us today as we understand, first of all, who they are and what their relevance to the Caribbean and the conversation is, but also what does it look like where you're calling in from? What is your perspective on the Caribbean and what's going ahead in that region? Now, first, I want to call on Terence Stroud, who received our Hall of Fame recognition in our 2025 recognition ceremony. So big congratulations, Terence. It was a pleasure to meet you in person in New York. But first, introduce yourself. Let us know where you're calling in from and what's going on in the Caribbean region.
Yes. Greetings, and thank you so much, Jonathan, for that warm welcome. To my Padians, welcome. I come to you from Brooklyn, New York, which is the epicenter of one of the largest Caribbean communities outside of the Caribbean. My family is from Trinidad. We have two other Trinidadians, or Trinis as we're called, on the call. And Brooklyn is a fascinating place. I was born and raised in East Flatbush. And it's one of the most amazing places where you get to meet so many different, we'll say, CARICOM, otherwise known as Caribbean communities, within your community. And I've been exposed to so many other cultures, but at the end of the day, my Caribbean community and mindset will always be key to who I am. I'm here today to offer my personal views, not necessarily as a government executive, but right now, to say in the United States, it would be an understatement to say that these are challenging times. These challenging times are affecting us not just in the Caribbean, the US, but also on a global level. In New York, our challenge is on a federal level. As a blue city, we're struggling to deal with an administration that's targeting a lot of the critical social services and safety net that we hold dear. On an enforcement standpoint, we're all seeing what's going on in Minnesota with ICE and how it's impacting our Somali and Latin American brothers and sisters. I have a lot of family that typically will come up, as many of us do, as Caribbean Americans, and a lot of them are saying, you know what? Maybe for the next 3 years, I'm going to take a pause. You're also seeing this impacting global sports, right? We're very excited to have the World Cup come, and the sales or lack thereof are reflective of that concern that so many people have, including Caribbean Americans, Caribbean nationals that are thinking of coming. So I think one of the things that's been really powerful for me is I'm a history major. I was raised in a Pan-Africanist mindset, and I always wondered what would be my actions during the civil rights era, right? We still see the impact of what those that made those sacrifices have had and still have. And one of the things that gives me hope, because I'm an eternal optimist, is the level of organization and mobilization that's taking place in the US is amazing. Throughout the country, people are organizing and letting their voices be heard. As I said, my family's from America, from Trinidad, so I go back multiple times a year. I'll confess, like all Trinis, I will be going for Carnival to have some fun with my family, right? But at the same time, we're also aware of what's going on in the Caribbean right now. I'm going to let my fellow panelists talk about Venezuela, but as a Trinidadian American, the impacts of what's taking place through this government on Trinidad and the Caribbean as a whole. How is that impacting us socially? How is that impacting us from an economic standpoint as well as from a safety standpoint? One of the main pillars of CARICOM is to make sure that you have peace within the region. We never want to be in a situation where war can break out in the Caribbean. That's one of the goals, in addition to all of the integration efforts that are taking place. So I'm going to pause for a minute because I want other people to hop into the conversation. But I'm very excited about my role as a Caribbean American and the connection that we have to the Caribbean and the larger Pan-African diaspora as well.
Thank you so much, Terence. You've highlighted why this conversation is very important, right? Because we, as people within our regions of the world, our respective regions, sometimes our knowledge on a particular subject can only extend as far as the borders, unfortunately. And so having someone there on the continent or there in the US or there in the Caribbean or in Venezuela to tell us exactly what's going on is very essential for a global gathering. So speaking on Venezuela, Francisco, thank you so much for joining us. I want to understand who are you, Francisco? I know who you are, but I want you to introduce yourself to our global audience. And of course, what's the relevance of yourself and Venezuela to this conversation?
I'm sorry.
You're on mute.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much to my fellow MIPADians and everyone who put this gathering together. I believe it's very important for us to be addressing these global issues in this time. In the 21st century, we all thought that the scourge of racism, discrimination was coming to an end. But reality shows us that nothing is far from the truth. We need to continue to work and thrive and make the world understand that racism is not something that we can continue to put up with. I come from Caracas, Venezuela. I'm currently in Orlando, Florida. And I believe that the situation in my country is very, very critical, not just for Venezuela, but for the entire world. One of the things that happened in Venezuela is that there's this constant conversation of how wealthy or how rich my country is. And that is a fallacy. It's not true. I can tell you from experience. That was true up until the 70s, when we had GDP per capita of $7,000. That was the case, yes. But for the 80s and 90s, we became a poor nation with a lot of resources, but poor, nevertheless. What I mean by this, I mean that we were not in a position to take care of our people in terms of education, health, homes, sanitation. So how can you be a wealthy nation if you cannot address the basic necessities of your people? So the reality is that we are sitting in a mountain of oil, the largest reserves in the world as counted today, but we are not able to provide for our people. That's the truth. So how can we be wealthy? This narrative of Venezuela being wealthy, being rich, is not true. We need to address this from a responsible perspective. So, like many Venezuelans around the world, I myself can tell you that I celebrate the removal of Nicolas Maduro. He's not a legitimate leader. He was not elected. He was usurping his functions. That's the truth. The way in which it was conducted can be discussed, can be addressed. Was it legal? Was it according to the international law? Well, we can discuss that. But the reality is that if the price to have this dictator removed from our country was to do it in a way that defies international law, for those of us who have been persecuted, for those of us who have seen people being tortured, slaughtered, so be it. If that is the price, let's pay it. Why? Because the conversation is not honest. It's not a real conversation. They're saying the US only wants the oil. What do you think China and Russia wanted? Love? TLC? No. They also had their eyes set on our resources. That is the truth. So the conversation cannot be the way in which Maduro was removed. But what is the future of Venezuela? You see, for the last 25 years, no one even dared to touch the issue in Capitol Hill, Washington, D.C., and the UN as well. But now it is an issue because a president took a decision. I'm not endorsing President Trump. I'm not saying that I'm his side. I'm saying that someone finally took a stand and made something other than just talking and giving lectures. Because in the meantime, 8 million people, 8 million Venezuelans have been leaving the country. I'm talking about the best of the best. Young people, bright people, the brightest minds. Our youth, our very youth, left the country. What were the world doing? What were you doing at the time? We needed your support. We needed your solidarity, your actions. So in Venezuela, we need to understand something. There is not a situation in which we can say that it's going to be peace and security in the short term. That is not true. We are in a very critical situation. We don't know what's going to happen in the near future. We have the same people who were in power slaughtering us, killing us, making us poor. They're still in power. It is not safer than before. If anything, it could be more dangerous. You see, the government of Venezuela has a list of people they consider their enemies, including everyone who comes from the US, who is a Venezuelan and sets foot in Venezuela, is to be considered an enemy put in prison the second the person comes in. Everyone who celebrated the removal of Maduro and posted on social media is to be persecuted. And there's a legal, if you will, mechanism that they are enforcing. They're checking people's cell phones. They're checking people's social media to tell whether or not they were celebrating Maduro's removal. So that is the truth on the ground. That's a reality. What can we do? This is my opinion. What can we do as people of Africans around the world to understand the situation in my country and to really help beyond the words, beyond the goodwill. What can we offer? So my position is the only thing we can do as MIPADians is to tell the truth about Venezuela. Number one, we are not a wealthy nation. We have potential, but we don't have our basic needs addressed. Number two, we need to have a legitimate government. We need to remove these people who are in power now, as they continue to be the same people who support Maduro and Chavez, and they're causing the same damage to our people. So those of you who want to understand our nation, our country, let's start by realizing that they have been lying to you. Venezuela came to this point precisely because we are not a wealthy nation. We haven't been for quite some time. We were a nation of people who were excluded. And yes, believe it or not, in Venezuela, 54% of people of African descent, there was racism in Venezuela, discrimination against people who were Black. There were zones of exclusion where you could not go. As a child myself, I went to the PDVSA office, the oil company of Venezuela, one of the biggest in the world. And by being Black, I was removed from the library when I was researching. This wasn't South Africa apartheid times. This is Venezuela. That was happening. People who went to nightclubs and looked Black or brown were removed. Yes, the culture is that. It happens in time. And the population who were excluded in extreme poverty over the last 50 years, essentially Black people. So where were you when that was taking place? What gave way to the monstrosity of Chavismo in my country was, in a good part, racial, social exclusion. The revenge of the excluded ones was Hugo Chavez. But sadly, as the going says, the vengeance has a way to destroy the avenger. Those who became avengers of the system that excluded them, well, took their vengeance on everybody else. And we are now all paying the price. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and thank you very much for your effort.
Thank you so much, Francisco. Like I said, a lot of people only see, or now I'm saying a lot of people only see or acknowledge what they've seen on CNN, right? We're getting a global perspective from people based in those specific regions. Now, I want to acknowledge very quickly a few individuals who have joined us. Alexandria J. Maloney. We have Dr. Sheila Walker, Camille Selvon. I would like for you guys to also jump in. And Tope Esan, our co-founder, he's joining us, and you were at Davos as well. These are very important times, a very important period of time in the year. And so I want us to jump straight to Camille Selvon to introduce where you're calling in from, why your region is important, and what your thoughts are on what's happening in the Caribbean.
Yes, so Francisco, oh my God, thank you. Thank you for your truth. It's really, really important that we in the Caribbean hear that. I am what you call maybe apolitical. I am not political. I belong to no political party. What I am is a mother. I am a creative. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an educator. And this situation in the Caribbean is one that needs our focus. We need friends. We need companions. We need to really be working together at this time with what is going on in the Caribbean. And I have to say, I think I mentioned this to Jonathan. It is the first time in my life, and I've been here decades. I won't give out my full age, but I've been here decades, many decades. And it's the first time that war and the Caribbean is being said in the same sentence for me. First time. Like, I would have never, ever thought we would be seeing these things. And it has hit home on many levels. When I first sent this out on social media, a Trinidadian person, a friend said to me, Camille, don't you think you will be out of your league talking about this? And I was like, I may be, but I'm talking as a creative. I'm talking as an entrepreneur. I'm talking as a mom. And I'm talking as a Trinidadian underground that saw two of our people killed, bombed on the waters. And what we are seeing now is that those two persons are suing the American government. These things never happened in my lifetime. I am talking over 5 decades of my lifetime. These things have never happened. So we are seeing unprecedented things. And we have to get prepared for what Francisco says. This is not the end. We are now getting into a space of uncertainty. And it is very, very concerning for us. I can only speak for me as a Trinidadian, but for those who are not familiar with the Caribbean, we are multi-ethnic, we are multicultural, we are multi-racial. So this makes it even more complex for us to talk about, because you would have different views. You'd have people probably in this audience who are against what Francisco spoke about. You would have those who believed it. My feeling is that, so what? So what? Let's discuss it. It cannot be that because you do not believe what I believe, that we cannot have a conversation. That has to stop. It is not happening in the broader perspective, because once you speak against someone's belief, the noise happens, right? The noise happens. And, that's we as a Caribbean people and as the diaspora, we have to break that. We also have to disrupt. We have to disrupt a lot of things. We have to disrupt the education system. We have to break education norm. We have to teach our people differently, because our old Caribbean constructs are absolutely not working for us. It's not working for us. So therefore, do we sit and continue to carry on our education system, our political system, this way that is not working for us? No, we have to disrupt. When we disrupt, however, you become, there's good trouble and bad trouble. We all know about that, right? But trouble happens. And we have to be able to do good trouble. So from this perspective, when I was awarded, I just want to go back to being awarded for MIPAD. I immediately jumped at it, because I, as a Caribbean person, my forefathers came from Africa, but my grandfather came from Venezuela. So it's not just about, being in your space and accepting and seeing, what is being thrown to us through media, to accept that. We have to step out of our box. And I just want to say one last thing before I pass it on. From the education side of it, my area of expertise is technology. And the upcoming trend that is coming towards us to do with artificial intelligence, if our community are not understanding of what that means, the propaganda is going to get worse. It is going to get worse, because what you're seeing there, you're believing it. And 90% of the work that the media stuff that you're seeing, you need to throw it in the bin. I know what I'm telling you. You need to throw it in the bin. And it is going to get worse. So what do? This is important. This connection is important. I am not out of my league. I am speaking from the heart. I am being affected. Our people are being affected right here in Trinidad and Tobago. We have conferences at the moment where people are calling us up and saying, no, sorry, not going to take that chance to be in Trinidad. That never happened to us. Mr. Stroud will know that, right? Our place normally is a space of peace, a zone of peace. So it is affecting us emotionally. It is affecting us financially. And we have to take a grasp of it. So I'm really, really excited to speak to everyone, to get our opinions out there. And I'm very, very excited to meet and speak to the Prime Minister of St. Kitts Nevis, because he was man enough to come to Trinidad and Tobago and meet with our current Prime Minister to have that difficult discussion. And that's what I'm talking about. And Jonathan, last thing, I'm not too sure if he mentioned, but the Prime Minister of St. Kitts Nevis is also the chairman for CARICOM, and he's doing an amazing job. He's the best person for that position at the moment.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Camille. A virtual round of applause for that. We're getting real insights, which is what we want in this global conversation. And we've touched on the situation in the Caribbean, Venezuela, how it looks from the US. I also want us to touch on, as you mentioned, the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. What do people need to do from a leadership standpoint? The situation in the Caribbean is that people are uncertain. There's the threat of war. The hurricane happened. What do leaders need to do in this time of crisis? Now, there are two individuals I want to touch on. Dr. Sheila Walker, I see you thinking. I want to give you some time to think, but I first want to touch on Alexandria. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jonathan. Firstly, on behalf of Black professionals in international affairs, I'd like to bring my warmest greetings from our leadership. We've been a longtime partner, official formal partner of MIPAD for the past few years, and we look forward to continuing to build and strengthen. To me, MIPAD represents the importance of why diaspora and community organizations are so important because, one, we're educating and informing our community on the things that matter. We are hearing the perspectives from members of our community, which when I go on CNN or Fox, I watch all news. When I tune into news channels, I don't necessarily hear the full narrative of what's happening. And so for me, that signals the importance of networks such as MyPad. Also, recognizing that we have formal channels of engagement of international related activity, and then we have informal channels. And when tensions between nations can become constrained, that's when you see the power of informal networks and diaspora communities that are able to be the bridge builders, are able to be, that connective tissue. And so as it relates to the Caribbean and Venezuela and some of the topics, BPIA has been intentionally using our platforms to bring on leading experts over the past few weeks to brief our community off the record briefings from Dr. Chris Schell to Daryl M. Blocker, Justin Hansford, who is the U.S. representative for the UN Permanent Forum for People of African Descent, others who were impacted by the U.S. withdrawal from international organizations and what impact that will have on our system as a whole, and what does that mean for us and our community of people and the voice that we have in some of these platforms. And I'm sure that many of you on the call today may be asking, well, how can I help? How can I be a part of the solution? First, when I ask myself that question, the first thing that I want to ensure that I do is become informed, become educated about what's happening so that I can better be able to make better decisions around how I may be able to help. So whether it's doing things like joining webinars like these or other informative based outlets that can give credible information to what's happening. Second, from an individual standpoint, how you may be able to support. So whether it's for supporting local nonprofits on the ground in different countries, BPIA this year we're supporting a missionary group that is supporting some rebuilding in Jamaica, for example, through St. Andrews. And so how, for me, it's most important to, as the Prime Minister mentioned in his remarks earlier, the focus on youth is not only just this future trajectory, right? Youth are also typically the most vulnerable population in a country or a nation. And so how can we utilize our resources to help support youth organizations, youth demographics in nations that may be affected by a variety of different things. And so you have that kind of individual standpoint. Little things add up to big things. So don't think that, I don't have, millions to donate. That's okay. It all adds up. And so from an individual standpoint, I encourage you to look for, local nonprofits, organizations that you can be able to support in that way. And then lastly, from the leadership standpoint, so the highest level. So for those many who are in the MyPad network and who are here or on this call, are individuals who either lead organizations, they lead communities, they lead networks. And so how do we compound that, right? How are we as leaders educating and informing ourselves so that when we are at Davos, when we are interacting with FIFA, when we are engaging in these circles, that we know what we're saying, that we're being effective in our ability to influence those circles. And so I recognize, that's where I'm interested in doing the most learning and understanding. So thank you, Francisco and Camille, for you all's comments, because you know, two things come to mind, and then I'll pass it back to the chair. Um, uh, I wasn't able to attend Davos this year, but it seemed that the themes were aligned with last year, right? AI, youth, those types of things. And so I know there's a variety of different perspectives and opinions and concerns and rightful concerns around AI. However, it's a train that's already left the track, and our people will get left behind if we don't understand it and if we're not informed about it. And so, ensuring that we as a community know and understand what AI and what that technology means, how can it be used to help us, and we need members in our community who understands what the obstacles and what the potentials of harm can be for our community, whether it's, wrongful face recognition for criminal related activity, things like that, so that we know how to respond and know how to course correct in either direction with that. And then the second I'll say, because I know there was some mention of FIFA and the World Cup and those related topics. Um, you know, Fortunately, FIFA and the World Cup activities, it is not solely US based. Okay. It is for the North American region, which means Canada, Mexico, places throughout the Caribbean as well. And so 2 months ago, when I was chairing a sports diplomacy announcement event at the Atlantic Council, I was there with the VPs of FIFA. I was there with the president of CONCACAF, which is like the North American regional implementer for FIFA. And there was an emphasis in now needing to direct the attention towards some of these new sports zones outside of the US. And this as being a potential economic driver to bulk up the need will come from some of those other regional areas for FIFA and world sports. And so, as a reminder, I'm a strong supporter of cultural and educational diplomacy. I think that those are some of the places where um, it can be a neutral gathering environment for individuals of great power and influence to come together. I saw it when I was at the Paris Olympics this year, where you've got all the major players in the room who are able to make decisions. It's not just about the game, it's not just about sports. So, for us who are leaders in this space and for our community, we need to be asking ourselves, are we in those rooms too? And when we see, do we know who's who and what's what, so that we can move with some level of intentionality there? And so, again, as I continue to navigate those spaces and enter some of these rooms, I need support. I need intellectual capacity from members of our community and those who are on the ground to help inform me on what can be some of the solutions, or what do the people on the ground really need. And so, for anyone who's able to provide any perspective on that, feel free to reach out to myself or my team. All of our contact information is on the BPI website. But we are looking for opportunities to be able to support and uplift our brothers and sisters in Venezuela, throughout the Caribbean, and throughout the entire region, to be able to activate and mobilize the great resource that is the African American community in the U.S., as well as diaspora communities at large. Historically, we've seen, whether it's through the civil rights movement or other historical elements that I'm sure that our beloved global advisor, Madam Walker, can speak to, that the African American community has often come to support our diaspora broadly, whether it's with the independence of African nations on the continent or otherwise. And so I believe that, we are now entering another period where we need to be activating the African American community around some of these efforts. And I look forward to BPIA being one of the leading forces behind that movement. So I'll pass it back to Jonathan, but thank you for the opportunity to share some thoughts.
No, of course. You touched on very important things, and I'm glad that these kinds of conversations are recorded so that we can reflect on the gems that are going to be dropped. But you reflected on a few things. One of those is the specific times of year where important people gather together and the kinds of rooms that we need to be in to influence decision making. Now, we see it in September with the United Nations General Assembly. And of course, MIPAD, we do our events on those sidelines, gathering together presidents, CEOs, founders, and influential figures from around the world. But we also saw it at Davos, which happened this month. earlier this month, and our co-founder Tope was there. So before we jump to Dr. Shirley Walker, I want Tope for yourself to come in and to break down what it is that we need to look for from a leadership perspective.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jonathan. And good morning, everyone from the great state of New Jersey, where it's cold and snowy. We're digging out of a big snowstorm. And Francisco, thank you so much for your summary. I think speaking about Davos, a couple of things came up with conversations around the global geopolitics of what's going on in the world. And I think I represented MIPAD at Davos, obviously, and everyone wanted to pick my brain and understand what our position is around what's going on in the Caribbean. To be, honestly, like Alexander said, you need to be informed. I kind of knew what was in the news. That was what kind of like what helped shape my position on this. But Francisco, you said some things that really caught my attention, which is around, you're living it first and you understand what's on ground. That's important perspective because everyone from afar is thinking the U.S. was going into Venezuela to take oil and minerals. But you said something that was very interesting, that history is always unkind to the avenger. I think, Donald Trump, not to be political, is a very, what's the best word I can use? Very politically noisy leader. I'm just trying to be very politically correct here, where some days you find yourself, very angry at the policy. Some days you try to make sense of it. But you kind of level set everyone on this call around. This is important for the people of Venezuela because of the leadership that it's currently. And whether it's Russia or China, they're not coming there to just show love to Venezuela. They also have personal interests. So why not the US? So that's very important context. Thank you for that. In regards to Davos, I want to also connect on what I call her Madam President, Alexandra said. I'll probably say 7 out of 10 people that I met at Davos was all around AI. And they were not people like us. So like you said, we are behind it. It's here. You can go on LinkedIn and see how companies are downsizing. That's to show you that AI is here now. We are all going to be impacted by it. I was in a lot of sessions at Davos where there were even organizations that are gathering themselves to what they call AI, social consciousness groups that want to help people manage how AI is going to dramatically change our lives. So that's important topic, maybe not necessarily for this conversation here, but I wanted to make sure that I highlighted, Alexandra, that is something that we need to almost start focusing on as part of the conversation within our networks each here, whether it's BPIA, MIPAD, and several other folks who have joined us from all over the world who run leadership, thought leadership, change making organizations as well. But yeah, Davos was great. It'll be very interesting, and I hope I'll be advocating for a lot more of our organizations like us to continue to participate at this engagement, because things that are going to impact our lives, that are impacting our lives, are being decided at these forums, and there's not enough of us in those conversations. So let me pause there. I know other folks have to speak, but that's the summary takeaway of Davos this year. It's around geopolitics. Venezuela was a hot topic as it should be. And most people are on the side where it's a different perspective than what Francisco just laid out. And that's why it's important to kind of get both sides of the story, because everyone feels like it's just a power struggle for capturing other countries' natural resources. But if you've laid it out the way, the country is still poor, the people are still poor, what's the benefit of aligning with any other political superpower, right? At least one thing it's clear: the U.S. always has some level of good intentions. I always and I'll say that because I always, something that caught my attention during the Wakanda Forever, where Shuri said, "The Americans, my favorite colonizers." It's there is meaning to that if you cut that, and I think that's what I don't know, Francisco, I'm not speaking for you, but that's how I connected the two when you made mention of China, Russia, and then they didn't do anything, but America comes out. But we know Americans, they have to report to Congress. They would try not to screw things up. I'm not making any, I'm not supporting anything. I'm just trying to connect here.
Yeah,
You make
says
it.
the American. Sure, absolutely.
I'll pass it on to Jonathan.
Yes.
No, thank you, Tope.
Right? Context is important as well.
Yeah, exactly. Context is important. And we've touched on the issue that's going on. We've touched on the relevant regions in Venezuela, Caribbean, even globally from the US as well. And we started to touch on the leadership rooms, but conversations like this, where we gather in MIPAD community, not necessarily politically focused, but with a lot of political reach, is very important. So I'm curious to understand what it is that we at the MIPAD community should be doing as individuals and as a whole. And so that's why I wanted you to jump in, Dr. Sheila Walker, with your thoughts. What should we be doing as individuals and as the MIPAD community?
Well, first of all, I'm thrilled to be here with all of you. And I think we need to figure out who we are. My sense is that my sense of who I am, I mean, each of you has said, I'm from Trinidad, I'm from Venezuela. Well, I'm from the global African diaspora. I have a US passport as a result of a ship bringing enslaved people to various places in the Americas. It could have stopped someplace else. I could be a Trini, I could be a Venezuelan, I could be an African, had my ancestors not been put on those ships involuntarily. So I'm always shocked when people say, are there Black people in Venezuela? I get this kind of reaction so often. I was saying to some African Americans, yeah, I was in Bolivia with some Afro-Bolivians. Are there Black people in Bolivia? Oh, please. I think that one of the things we need to know is that there is no country in the Americas without an organized population of African origin, at least one. In most countries, there are several such organizations. There are different populations that are culturally different. In Colombia, for example, the Pacific coast is really different from the Atlantic coast. For me, a major characteristic of the Pacific coast is all of the African family names that people have and don't know they're African. And if they know they're African, they don't know where in Africa or what it means. I was at a party. I met somebody named Congo. I said, yo, prima, ¿cómo estás? Because I have cousins in the state of Delaware whose name is Congo. Do they know what that means? No, I've tried to tell them. I have shown them videos of the importance of the Kingdom of Congo in the Atlantic world, of the importance of that word, Congo, all over the Americas, every place, right? So I think that the first word, the first theme in our second decade, like in our first decade, I'm looking forward to what I want by the end of the second decade is for us to know where we are, who we are, and that we're every place. The first revolt of people of African descent was where? Now, Haiti. We hear a lot about Haiti these days. What about Iraq?
It was in Haiti, yes.
No, Iraq.
Wow.
Iraq.
Black Iranians.
Yeah,
oh, wow.
Yeah. Al-Muqtada was their capital. The Zanj. It's called the Revolt of the Zanj. So we need to know where we are, who we are, what we're doing wherever we are, and identify. I was on Reunion Island right after Barack Obama became president of the United States, and I introduced myself as, I'm from the country of Barack Obama. What was the answer? Oh, you're from Kenya. So I do think it's
love
very it. Yeah, I didn't say
Thank you for always doing that. For always taking us around the world whenever we get together. We are all over the world, sometimes in unexpected places. So yeah, Francisco, many people didn't even know Black people exist in Venezuela. So this is really good to have you on. And for me, Mama, Jonathan
It's great to be here. Always been amongst my Padians. It's just real people in locations where we wouldn't hear from, on popular media. So thank you all for joining in. Jonathan, I mean, I would just speak from the continental perspective. I'm currently in Lagos, and I am just going to say I show speed. That's the update from Africa, okay? From the continent, I show speed. Uh, for those of you who have been following, really just want to say a big thank you to a Black American who came and just opened up Africa, not just for the world, for our people to know these are real people. There's a continent you should connect with. And Terrence, when I watch, you're in New York City. When I watch CNN, I see what's going on in America. It's really unsettling. And anytime we gather here, it's about how does this global political shifts affect our people? It's very important. This is a perspective that the pontiffs will never deliberate over on CNN. So we have to create these forums where we can share the impact of these global shakes on our people, right? Politically, economically, culturally, and humanitarian wise. So, Jonathan, thank you as our global CEO for always just encouraging us to have these conversations. Thank you so much.
No, absolutely. And I'm glad that we've had such a global discussion. I'm keen to allow the next generation or the current generation to gain insights like this and be in kinds of rooms like this that they otherwise wouldn't be in. Now, I do want us to understand a bit more about what MIPAD can do as well, because in different regions, that can look a bit different. We have Venezuela on the call. Like Dr. Sheila Walker said, some people didn't know there were people of African descent in Venezuela. So what is it that MIPAD can do in these specific regions around the world, or collectively to show support or to help in a time of crisis within the Caribbean region like this? So I want to go first to Camille Selvon and then afterwards to Terence and then to Francisco.
Okay, great. And Jonathan, I'm your co-host also. So I have some questions for the wonderful team of people here. So I would like to push that question out instead of me say something, right? So to put my question into perspective, from the Caribbean, we always felt like, okay, we are fragmented, right? As islands, we have how many Caribbean islands? So there's a fragmentation there already. The slave triangle, we went from different continents, right? So we have an opportunity to rework that. We have an opportunity to rework that because that is still here. So my question I'm not too sure who can take this, but I'd love anyone on the panel to jump in, is what kind of healing do you think we as a community need to do in order to do that? Because I feel like there's so much trauma. There is so much. And on top of that trauma, for us, is now this that is happening because we are now connected to Latin America. But now there's that divide now, Latin America and the Caribbean. So there's a lot of trauma. So based on what Ms. Sheila Walker, thank you for the time I'm having a conversation with you, from what you are saying about us taking that to the next level, what kind of healing do you think we have to do as a people? I'm throwing that out to the panel.
I think we need to get beyond the trauma and look at the triumphs and look at all that people of African origin have contributed to the Americas. And one of the things that I hear, well, they don't teach us that. I don't blame them. If I were they, I would not teach us that either. But it is up to us to learn about ourselves for ourselves. That word recognition, that's fine. It needs to be self-recognition because nobody's going to tell us our story in a way that's not going to make us mad, but ourselves. And if we have so much in common that we're not aware of. And where does what we have in common come from? Africa. I mean, thinking about about St. Kitts and Nevis, small islands who thinks about them? Not very much. However, there's something in St. Kitts and Nevis called masquerade, and it has a certain sound. I was in the Dominican Republic. I heard that sound and I thought, oh, there it is. Bermuda, same thing. So it's music and dance. We do that. That's part of the joy that we have contributed to the world. But it's also about connections. There was a UNESCO person who was at an event in Bermuda. You don't think about Bermuda's Africanity. He saw some Gumbe dancing. We were talking. I looked away. I looked back. He wasn't there. He was dancing. He said, how do they know you have not forgotten anything? The dance that these Gumbes were doing in Bermuda that came from St. Kitts. He said we did the same dance in Kate Bakongo in Brazzaville. Now, how does this happen? This continuity that we don't know we have in so many elements of culture. I mean, it's not just music and dance, food. I mean, food. Come on. What do we eat for New Year's? We always eat something that says Africa. In the United States, we have to have some black-eyed peas. Well, where do we get those black-eyed peas? Where do we get that custom? Africa. So I think first we need to get to know each other, and then we need to understand that we're every place. So wherever something is going on, we are part of it. I mean, when the United States, that's been my experience, creates a war someplace, that's when we learn about the Black people there. That's when I learned about the Black folks around Basra in Iraq, okay, where the revolt of the Zanj took place in the 9th century. That's a few centuries before Haiti. There may have been more. I'm talking about documented revolts. So we need to think about these are our cousins, wherever it is. And if we have that perspective, then it's not foreign. They're not foreigners. They're our cousins.
Great.
Well said.
Great.
One of the things
I'll just jump in on that one if that's okay. I think it was the perfect question, and I usually don't like to go after the perfect answer, and I feel that's what I got with Dr. Walker, but I'm going to take a shot at it because you talked about going from trauma to triumph. And it reminded me a lot of just, again, how I was raised through a Pan-Africanist lens. There's a person I wanted to talk about who had a big impact in my life as a young kid in Trinidad. And his name was Henry Sylvester Williams. And in 1900, he convened the first Pan-African conference, right? So seeing somebody that was so powerful, it reminded me of speeches I've heard from Mia Motley, where she talks about not limiting yourself because you're quote unquote from a small island. People from small islands can have huge global impacts. And I want to center this in MIPAD. As part of the reason I wanted to become a part of MIPAD was it's literally is the manifestation of what I was taught as a child. Like I would listen to my grandfather talk. As a wise Black man, I'd listen to my mother talk, and they always talked about a goal of not necessarily an integration, but a connection of Black people throughout the world on social, cultural, political, and economic aspects. So when I found out about this organization, I said, I got to be a part of this, right? I just have to be a part of this because what you've done is so powerful because it's not just linear. It's not just, hey, we have some people here from Africa. Hey, we have some people from the Caribbean. We have some people from America. When I see Black Britons, when I see Black Canadians, Black Latin America, and what did Jonathan say? He wanted 6 members of the continents to reach out, right? That's what we're talking about as far as that connection. And then I'll touch a little bit on what Dr. Walker said. I was able to do, when I was in law school, I had an African American professor. I'm going to emphasize the fact that he was African American because the role of African Americans globally has been one of unification. It's education, political power that allowed other Black people to come to the country, and the spreading of education and kindness throughout the world. That's part of the legacy, I think, of African Americans, my opinion there, right? He created programs for us to be able to go out to other countries. So I was able to go to South Africa, study at the University of Wits on their Truth and Reconciliation Commission. I was able to go to Ghana and speak and clerk for their Supreme Court. One of the most powerful moments that I had was actually not legal when I'm in Ghana. We're just sitting down and we're just talking. And they said, tell us what you know about us. And I said, well, my family's from Trinidad. And when we were kids, we would listen to the radio. And there was a man whose name was Paul Keynes Douglas. And he would tell us Anansi stories, right? So I told them an Anansi story, and the whole room got quiet. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm saying the right thing or not. And I tell them the story about Bear Nancy and Bear this and da 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 da. And they said, you know what you just did? You told us one of our stories. I said, really? They said the only difference was there was no bear tiger. Like we have leopards. And like they explained that to me, right? But they also said, ask us who we are. And I said, well, who are you? They said, we're the Twee. And they said in Twee, the word for spider is a Nancy, right? It was such a powerful, like I expected to go to the motherland and connect, but to know, like Dr. Walker said, that there are so many things that we carry within us, within our culture, whether it's the Black Eyed Peas or the stories, that we are connected, but are we making the connections about those connections? I think that that's really powerful. And again, rooted in what we're doing in MIPAD. I also do some work with BPIA. Alexandra and her team are doing phenomenal work. The connections that we're forming are extremely powerful. And like Camille said, it doesn't matter the distance, but we need to make sure that we are not disconnected. And I think MIPAD has done excellent work in making those connections. So congratulations to all those that were recognized by MIPAD and all those that have joined the MIPAD community.
That's wonderful. I also love Camille's question, and I'm happy to see Dr. Sheila Walker here. I saw her 9 years ago in Washington, D.C.
Quite a long time.
It's been a while. Lovely to see you. And I believe that the way to heal our community, the way to heal our people, is to basically heal the greatest crime ever committed unto us. Beyond the African trade lies instilling of a victim mentality. That is the biggest crime because it made sure to perpetuate slavery on the future generations. We have no shackles, we have no chains, but we have a victim mentality. Poor me, the world owes me something because my ancestors were enslaved. So that is destroying our youth. If we thought that in the 21st century that was long gone, well, no, it isn't the case. So we need to heal from within by teaching our youth that there's much more to us than slavery. That's but one of the chapters in our history. But what about the Mali Empire? What about ancient Egypt? What about our royal heritage? What about the wealthiest man in history who would bring Elon Musk to shame, who crossed Africa giving away gold? So we're talking about who we are, but the way they're portraying us is that we are descendants of slaves. We are undesirable. We are violent communities, and that is not true. That is not who we are. So if we continue to instill this victim mentality in the next generation, this issue is never going to end. So the healing comes from knowing who we really are, where we come from. We are descendants of kings and emperors. We were building massive edifications when Europe was still in caves. And history is so, I don't know if it's cruel or has this dark sense of humor that puts things to perspective in terms of loops and circles. The world is looking at Africa for the resources. The future of the world is in Africa. Is a continent with the youngest population, with the most resources, with the cleanest water, with the deposits of gold, that now the world is not focusing a lot on. But as the next generation devastates other resources, the world's going to look into Africa again for more resources all over again. So what will we have done if we teach our children that they're victims of the system? Poor me. The white ones have more opportunities than me. I'm behind. That is not what we should teach. We should be free from those mental shackles. emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. That's what I want to teach the next generation.
Yes, and I think Jonathan and I want to have a conversation today like that, and it's going beautifully. So I'm jumping in with another question that is very much related to what we are speaking about, but we have to continue to talk, but we do have to do things to make a difference. We have to put things in place that starts to create a catalyst, right? So in order to do that, we have to disrupt. I use that word quite a bit because I'm a disruptor. That's why I'm here. I'm a disruptor. I'm okay being thrown under the bus. That's okay. I've been under many. However, what we are dealing with is systematic systems that are in place. And I'm talking, I'll be a little bit controversial here. I'm talking religion, I'm talking politics, I'm talking education. And in order to disrupt these things, you have to break apart, you have to probably break some rules. And with that, not everybody, not everyone wants to be in that position, but you do have a few that will do that. So my question, I want to bring it back to economics based on exactly what we are speaking. So right now, tariffs are being thrown all over the place, right? And in some situations, it is being used as a tool to bend, even in the Caribbean, for us to make certain decisions based on that situation with tariff. So my question to the team, and I want to show this here, everybody knows this, right? Yes, this shell. Yes,
These are
especially those
cowrie shells. Yeah.
cowrie shell. Now, this shell was used as a form of currency at one point in Africa. It was used as a currency. So these were the things that we had to do in order for our finances, our economics of Africa and the Caribbean to work. We may have to go back to some things. We may have to go back and figure out another way to deal with money. We may have to think about, there's money that is not tangible. It's not tangible. But that means disrupting. And disrupting means that you are going to impact big business. You are going to impact the banks. So my question, based on what I'm saying to you all, how much are we able to disrupt? Because I feel like that is the only way we can make solid changes in order for us to move as a people. Throw that out to anyone.
I can step in. I think I want to piggyback off of what both Terrence and Francisco said, and it ties to your question, Camille. And what I also just was a member of a panel that was led by Wamkele. You guys can Google him. He's a very, he heads the Intra-Africa Trade Association. So I think what was important that he said that ties to this question, Camille, is around and Francisco, I think I understand where you're coming from around the mentality shift, but there are infrastructure and legacy policies that hinders our ability to transition, right? Because you think about it from like a victim, think about the left of the victim, the right is the economic empowered, right? But in the middle lies legacy infrastructures and policy that hasn't helped us to make that shift, right? And I give you a simple example. Africa has roughly about a $2 billion trade annually, right? And only 10% of Africans trade within themselves. If you increase that number 3x, that lifts a lot of people out of poverty, right? But there are no, if you wanted to take a flight, let's bring it down to very relatable conversation. If you wanted to take a flight from Lagos to Lagos, for those who are not familiar, is the largest city in Africa. If you wanted to take a flight from Lagos to maybe like Dakar, for example, it's not as easy or smooth to have that transition. There's some countries in Africa where you have to go to Europe to come back to the continent. Just think about that. Those are the way Africa was designed, and we don't want to go that far back, the way the countries were designed. It was just legacy colonizers that just drew maps, right? Not understanding the dynamics of language, culture, people, etc. So Africa is dealing with that for all intensive purposes now, right? Like it's just not set up. But now let's fast forward into economic empowerment. Like that's where we need to get to today. You talk about the Caribbean and the diaspora being like the 51st African nation. When you think about it, there are 54 countries on the continent, and there's the diaspora, which we can, all intensive purposes, include Caribbean into it, right? How can we start trading between ourselves, right? That's how we get to solutions, and we start to get away from that mentality of victim mentality, right? And that's a lot of what we're trying to do at MIPAD. We may be late to the game, but we are here now. I think those are important conversations. I'll give you another nugget, like Nigeria and Brazil, the two most populous Black nations, just signed an agreement, a trade agreement. It's been over 6 months, I believe, and yet both countries hasn't been able to execute. So I say all this to say that we need to empower and educate our people, that they understand that as the government, the geopolitics is happening, how do we benefit from it? And I'll give a simple example in Davos, right? There are people in there who are what they call consultants, lobbyists, whatever you want to call them, who are the ones putting their ear to the ground of what's happening globally. So when they hear all this kind of trade agreements, they go and unpack, what does that look like? What does it mean? Like, okay, if there's a trade between Brazil and Nigeria, what do we need to do to be the ones? Because the government is not going to be the one telling you to go trade. They've enabled you with an agreement that both countries are, lack of a better word, we're cool now, we're buddies. Now, private sector, go do the work. But our people are still challenged with understanding what a simple trade agreement between two countries is. So we need, our work now is to continue to educate our people that the only way we get out of this mentality of being a victim and economic stability is to begin to trade between ourselves. And that's why I'm very excited to speak with the Prime Minister as well, because I know, as being the chairman of this new role, that's all success for me, and I'll tell him this when he does join, is making sure he educate and create an enabling pipeline for those two regions to trade. But we need to, and I agree with you that we need to move there, but we are in that transition phase now where we've been victim for so long, and this is where we want to get to, but we're in the middle, we're stuck. At least most people are. Some people are digging themselves and shifting, and some people, it's just difficult for them to know how to maneuver. And that's why we do what we do at MIPAD, and we want to continue to do even a better job at educating, empowering, and laying down what does this really mean. That's this conversation here. What does a trade between Venezuela and Nigeria or Venezuela and Ghana look like? This is what it looks like. This is how private sector business owners can trade with their counterparts in Venezuela or Brazil or Trinidad because there's a trade agreement. And you, private sector, are the ones going to do it, not us looking to government, because I still see a lot of our people looking to government. You see all the like, oh, when is government going to help come save my life? No, the government is not coming to save your life anytime soon. You're going to need to read between we have ChatGPT and a whole bunch of resources now. Understand what a trade agreement is. It's something that simple. What it means between two countries. Like, okay, now they say, oh, we're going to trade in cocoa. Ah, wow. I have a cocoa trader in my neighborhood. Let me start making calls to a cocoa trader.
And that's what the MIPAD marketplace is about, right? To connect our people around the world with economic empowerment, programs, trade agreements, investment opportunities. That's the role that we play at MIPAD, is coordination. So yes, you're absolutely right. And that's why we're going to continue pushing our MIPAD marketplace, to show our global community how a Black person in America can invest in stocks in Africa, or how an African can invest in stocks on the New York stock, buy an Apple share, right? So this is great. So wanted to hand over to Talkway. I was just on to Jonathan, just got a call from the Prime Minister's office. We do apologize. He's moving between Trinidad. He's currently in Trinidad and back to St. Kitts. So Jonathan, I'd love for you to show us that interview with him in New York, so we can hand that over to the studio. So
Absolutely.
Jonathan, over to you.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you for the discussion so far. As we've said, the Prime Minister, he was, as Camille Silveron, you mentioned, he was in Trinidad having a conversation with the Prime Minister of Trinidad, and he's moving between continent regions right now, so he's unable to join, unfortunately. However, during our time with him in New York, we had a very special conversation between him and the senior anchor from CNN, Sarah Seidner. So we're going to play for you that clip so you can understand what it is that he had to say.
I read to you all that he does, you will feel as if you're not doing enough. He is the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. Don't hold your applause, because there's more. The Minister of Finance, National Security, Citizenship and Immigration, Health and Human Resource Management, and Social Security. He does many things and has many hats. He believes in the development of young people and has worked ardently since his acceptance of the office as the 4th Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis to ensure that young people are recognized and provided adequate opportunities to advance themselves. He is a man committed to the growth and development of the people of the Twin Island Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis and the advancement of regional integration and relationships with Africa and its diaspora. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Honorable Dr. Terrence Michael Drew. First term as Prime Minister, you were, however, a medical doctor before getting into politics. What is it that made you decide, I want to enter politics after the important job that you were doing?
Right. First of all, before I get started, let me pay homage to you. You have demonstrated great strength in battling what you had to battle. And you are here in such good spirits. Put your hands together.
You've already managed to make me blush.
Well, how I see medical practice, I see it as an instrument to help fellow human beings. I think that is the foundation. I don't think I've ever worked for a for-profit organization. My contributions have always been to communities, and especially to those who need help the most. Even my own medical practice is to render a lot of free care to those who couldn't afford a medical doctor. And so my extension to politics, I see politics not as a means to have power, but as a means to serve and to help those especially who most need that help. So for me, it's a natural extension of what I do, serve humanity.
Let me ask you about where you studied medicine, because that's a very rich and interesting story in and of itself. You were in Santa Clara, Cuba?
Yes.
As well as Texas in the United States, among other places. Can you give me a sense of how that shaped your worldview? Because there are few people that have probably had that particular experience. As you're learning your craft and learning how to care for people, you're seeing completely different scenarios and how people operate in those scenarios.
Yes, so being in Cuba as a young medical student, Cuba has a socialist system, which means medicine is free. And so it is not profit-driven. It is people-driven. And so that helped to really form me in determining what has become my worldview when it comes to medicine. So I see medicine as a means of serving humanity and not necessarily to make money or the prestige that may come with it. I think after my 5th year of medical school, and I went to do my internship, I applied to go to Haiti to do my internship. because Haiti needed doctors the most in the region. However, I was told that I could not go because I was not a citizen of Haiti and the program was set up just for Haitians. And I studied with a number of them. When they gave me their stories, I said, I want to go back with them to help. I think that is one of the disappointments that I had. I wish I had the opportunity to go to Haiti to serve them. Then I returned home, where I served as a general practitioner, working in my own country. And then I traveled, to get to the United States, especially from Cuba. I had to do these rigorous exams called the USMLEs, United States Medical Licensing Exam. So I did well. And I'll give you a very interesting story that no knowledge is lost. I remember when I was going to my interviews, I met a particular doctor. His name was Richard McCullough, MD, from Australia. He's very well known in gastroenterology, and one of his students was actually a Nobel Prize winner for gastric ulcer. And we stayed in that room. I was supposed to be an hour interview. And he said, where are you from? I said, I'm from St. Kitts.
Amazing. Thank you for that, studio. And now we're going to move on to the next video, which highlights our extra activities that we perform at MIPAD. We don't just recognize people and galvanize them in New York. We have activities throughout the year. We started with our New Year's lunch. We move over to New York, but we also close with our diaspora activities in Lagos. So studio, please cue that video as well.
We just landed here in Lagos.
We're here in Lagos. Thank you so much for welcoming me.
We're here at Takwa Bay, and we've had an amazing time. We're in the water. We were riding some of the horses. Amazing. First time here.
Super excited. Just finished the meeting with the governor of Lagos. We're super excited for the award ceremony.
I'm proud of what you've done. I was there when you started. Great show, great award. Thank you so much, MIPAD.
We have just wrapped our recognition ceremony in Nigeria, Lagos 2025.
This because the MIPAD Travel Desk created your first experience here in Lagos. So from booking of your flights, the airport pickup, and everything that you have done, your itinerary. What would you tell the audience who are considering maybe booking a package with MIPAD? What feedback would you give to them?
Well, this has been honestly, I would say, the easiest experience that I've had when it comes to the travel piece. Getting from New York to Lagos in the middle of Dirty December is not easy. So I would say from that angle, seamless process. The team has been very responsive, very helpful. Once I got on the ground, I had a team greeting me. So I didn't for a moment think like I'm alone. Like I felt, like I said, this is family. I landed and everyone's been very supportive, very welcoming. And I've enjoyed it so far. Everything from the food, right, where I'm staying, all the things. And so I would definitely say it's been the best experience. I would say traveling, especially during the busy holiday season.
I love that.
Mm-hmm. And even myself, I've been to Lagos before, but I can say that when I arrived, I was ushered through the airport.
Yes.
There was a camera in my face when I came to the airport. They took me exactly to where I was going to stay, which is the Lagos Continental Hotel. So this is a well-curated package, right? If you haven't been to Lagos before, people hear the rumors that you shouldn't go by yourself. We have a team here to help you. We have people recognized in over 120 different nations. And so we have travel packages from all across the world. And so, Crystal, my question to you is, how do people get access to those travel packages?
So we have the MIPAD Travel Desk website. So you can go on www.mipadtraveldesk.org. And yeah, you'll get more information there. You'll see the different packages we have. We also create specific packages for the need of the individual. So like Angela was talking about, the Broadway show, visiting the UNGA and all these different things. So aside from us just having packages that we create ourselves, we also offer you the opportunity to create your own packages. So for example, if we have packages in, let's say, destinations that you may not be interested in, but you would like to visit a destination, for example, Malaysia. Let's say you want to visit Malaysia. You don't have any connections there, but you hear that it's beautiful and you want to have an amazing time. We will reach out to our MIPADians in Malaysia, and then we'll get that connection sorted for you in terms of your flight, your accommodation, because we have people on ground everywhere. So we can help you create your experience so you're not alone. You're not sitting down and trying to figure out, is this.
Fantastic. So what you just saw was our end of year awards in Lagos. Now at MIPAD, we have expanded what it is that we do. We galvanize our community to attend our events, our global community to come to our events in specific regions. So whether it's Washington, D.C. in September, whether it's New York in September as well, whether it's our end of year awards, but we also curate travel packages to enable this to happen. So I want us to pass on to Crystal, who is our director at MIPAD and head of the travel desk, to introduce what that's all about.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I apologize. I'm having issues with my audio, so I hope you guys can hear me well. The panel today has been amazing. I've loved the discussion that we have been having so far. Really amazing. And I just want to say, when we speak about Africa and the Caribbean, we are really speaking about one people separated by distance, but deeply connected by culture, history, and identity. As an executive director for the Africa Caribbean Initiative with MIPAD, my focus is on strengthening that connection in practical and sustainable way, moving beyond conversation and into action. Through this initiative, we are actively working on several projects designed to connect both continents through tourism, business, culture, and relationship building. One of these key projects that we are currently working on is the Africa Caribbean Golf and Business Networking Summit that is supposed to take place in St. Kitts. More information on that will be coming soon from the MIPAD desk. Basically, these types of engagement are important because they create access, conversation, and trust, and it helps bridge that gap, especially with trade, tourism, sharing of culture, and just doing business, connecting both continents, basically. One of the key tools that support this work is the MIPAD Travel Desk. So as you saw in the previous video, I was speaking about the MIPAD Travel Desk. So I'm going to add a little more information to that. While initiatives and programs are important, none of them can succeed without movement. Travel is how connection becomes tangible. It is how relationships are formed, engagement begins, and opportunities are explored. The Africa-Caribbean relationship cannot grow without movement. For many, the Caribbean Africa represents reconnection, a return to roots, culture, and identity. For Africa, the Caribbean represents a strong diaspora partner and global reach, influence, and opportunity. The relationship is not only directional, it's not one directional. It is a two-way corridor, Africa and the Caribbean back to Africa. Yet despite this strong bond, movement between both regions has often been unstructured, difficult, and fragmented. Like Topper just mentioned about moving between the continent of Africa alone. You have to go to Europe to come back to Africa. Like these are the type of fragmentation that we have been experiencing for decades. People want to travel for events, for business, for cultural exchange, and for exploration, but there has not always been a clear system guiding the movement. This is where the MIPAD Travel Desk plays a crucial role. The Travel Desk exists to organize and support purpose-driven travel between Africa and the Caribbean and the wider diaspora at large. Its focus is not mass tourism. Instead, it supports intentional movement, travel that is connected to purpose, programs, and outcome. This includes diaspora travel and reconnection journey, group and delegation travel, event-based travel linked to summits, forums, and festivals. For example, we have Recognition Week, we have the recognition that we did in Lagos in 2025. So all these MIPAD events, plus events that our community have, it can be shared on the travel desk as packages so people in the community can see what's happening around the world, book their experiences, book their travel through the travel desk. The travel desk simplifies the process, particularly for first-time travelers, and ensures that each journey is supported, coordinated, and thoughtfully planned. When travel is structured, something important happens. Trust increases, relationship deepens, and one visit often becomes many. This is how travel moves beyond a single trip and becomes an ongoing relationship between people, institutions, and regions. Through this approach, the travel desk supports the broader goal of the Africa Caribbean Initiative, strengthening engagement, encouraging repeat interaction, and building long-term bridges between both regions. In closing, the Africa connection cannot be sustained without consistent movement. The travel desk provides the structure that allows that movement to happen smoothly, intentionally, and with purpose. It is not simply about getting people from one place to another. It is about strengthening the bridge between Africa and its Caribbean diaspora. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure again to be here with you guys.
Thank you so much, Crystal.
Jonathan, I have a question for Crystal. I'm very jealous of Crystal because she left Trinidad and went to Nigeria and is now living in Nigeria. And I would love to do that, but I want to kind of throw out something to you a little bit. I would like to go to Benin. That's like on my list, right? With your experience leaving the Caribbean, going to Nigeria, first of all, tell me if that is possible with the MIPAD travel desk, and also what was that experience for you coming out of the Caribbean? Because we have 46 people on the chat still, and I'm sure those in the Caribbean would want to know, that experience you had.
Okay, awesome question. So basically what the travel desk provides, right? When I came to Nigeria for the first time, I was invited here by someone who already knew the territory, had experience, first-hand experience. For some people, they might visit the country and they don't have that. They don't know how to navigate. A lot of people say, oh, they came to the continent and they got scammed, because they don't have anybody to show them the ropes or teach them how to move about. And with MIPAD operating in over 120 countries, right? With the travel desk, we can help you connect with MIPADians across the globe. So if you want to visit Timbuktu and you don't know anybody on ground, you don't know how to navigate, you want connections, maybe you want to attend a business event and you don't really have the connections, the MIPAD community can reach out to people on ground there through the travel desk and connect you with these people. So for example, Topper was in Davos. We have MIPADians in Davos. So imagine you going to Davos and you don't know anyone, you don't have any connections, you want to get in certain rooms. The connection with MIPAD can open those doors for you. So this is basically what the travel desk does for the MIPAD community in terms of bringing us together and creating that synergy for us to be able to travel and network and connect with each other.
I love the Timbuktu part. That's really good. Thank you so much. A good laugh. This has been such an amazing conversation. Thank you so much, Jonathan. I want to say a big thank you to you and your regional director in the Caribbean, Camille, my namesake. Thank you so much, both of you. I want everybody to give them both a virtual thank you and thumbs up for this incredible session. It's always a pleasure to be on with real people who give us insights from their different localities. We're all facing the same reality. Again, my name is Camille, the founder of MIPAD, and I spent most of the time listening and just watching the interaction, and my heart is full of gratitude to see what we've built really just come to life, which is a global network that connects our people. It is okay for us to be dispersed around the world, but what is not okay is for us to be disconnected. So I want to say big thank you to the MIPAD team, from Jonathan to Prince, the studio. Prince is in the studio. Crystal, Camille, to our global advisors, Dr. Sheila Walker, Terrence, Alexandra J. Maloney. I mean, it's really incredible. We had people from Asia, from Africa, from the Middle East, from the Caribbean, from Brazil.
Yes, Francisco as well,
Canada.
Venezuela,
of course, we had our honoree, from Venezuela. Incredible. Francisco, we never knew that one day this was going to happen, and when he did, your presence here to help our people know that when these issues happen, our people are usually at the bottom of the pyramid. We always, face the worst part of any of these global crises. So it's important for us to always find a moment to connect. So I'm going to close with just massive thank you. And on the screen, you can see what our 2026 looks like. Our editions are going to start coming out. So if you haven't nominated, I've nominated I Show Speed. So Jonathan and the team, please consider giving him a Hall of Fame award this year for the incredible work he did showcasing Africa to the world. We'd love to bring him to the United Nations. So the 2026 list is it's open nominations. Please, if you haven't gotten your nominations in from all over the world, do that now. Connect to our able global CEO and the team, Angela, Talkback, all the team around the world. Please submit your nominations and hope to see you at least one or two MIPAD events this year, either in New York or see you in DC, see you on Africa Day on the continent, see you in Brazil. Around the world, we got you. So a big thank you. I wanted to ask everyone still on the call, if you had a question, type it in or raise your hands and we'll give you the floor to talk. We have 5 more minutes, a few more minutes. I think it will be good to let your voices also be heard. If you want to say something, please feel free to just raise your hand and we'll allow you to talk. So
there's some questions in the chat.
Okay, so go ahead and read it for us.
All right, so we have, sorry. I have to go back up. There's a lot of questions. Sorry.
And if people are still on and you want to raise your hands, you can raise your hands and we can allow you to talk. So if you can
I have one question here. How can government establish global frameworks that go beyond voluntary guidelines and instead enforce concrete benchmarks for racial inclusion and executive leadership? If we can regulate carbon footprints across corporate ecosystems, why can we not apply the same binding mechanisms to dismantle the systemic barriers facing Black executives? And that is from Peter de la Becure on the chat.
Yes, Peter, absolutely. Great question. And that's what the International Decade for People of African Descent is about. And we have the permanent forum as well. So these are the forums that we can table this at the United Nations. We can create resolutions around them by working with member states. You currently work with, you're based in Paris. We're going to give you the mic. It'll be great to hear your voice. Tell us where you're dialing in from. And just share a little more about the question you asked.
Hi, I'm Peter. I'm from Brazil. Such an honor to be with you all today. Really, really inspiring. I'm an executive from Brazil. So as I work with many big companies, more in the creative field, I'm always with this angst, with this sadness of not seeing us in the leader positions. When we are, it's just lonely. It's just 1 chair, 2 chairs. So we're being tokened, never as an ecosystem so we can strengthen ourselves. So I try to always switch in between those governmental lenses and the private industry lenses to try to create this pressure that can come top down from governments to companies, so we can have clearer KPIs, not just ESG KPIs because they're more vague. They're not treated as real profitable KPIs. So when I compared with a carbon prints that we have on COP30 and all the other global agendas, this is so much more concrete, right? So I always dream with those concrete KPIs that can evolve our presence in executive chairs.
I love this, Peter. Can you please connect with us? Let's get your email. Let's keep talking. This is very important points that you bring up. And that's why we have, MIPAD as a platform that can engage the United Nations and corporates as well. The UN has a platform called the UN Global Compact Office. So we can definitely work with you and them to address these issues. I see some more questions in here. There was a thank you so much, Peter from Brazil. I see a question in here from Linda, and he says, "How can MIPAD come to Silicon Valley?" Lydia, thank you so much for joining. All right, the mic is yours. Go ahead, Lydia.
And it would be lovely to see the faces. So if we could pin the face, those in studio who is speaking, so we can see them.
Absolutely. All right, Lydia, the mic is yours. You can ask. Let's hear from you. You're based in Silicon Valley?
Yes, I am. So I was just looking at the activation schedule. I did see you all in New York and UNGA in September.
We're going to be in LA.
So I see you're going to be in LA, not the same, but I said, because I was going to say, can I get you guys to the West Coast? And I saw you were going to be in LA.
No, this is good because AI is such a key issue and topic, and Silicon Valley, yeah, absolutely. We're open to that. Please drop your email, connect with Jonathan and the team, and let's see what we can do. Thank you for the invitation.
Sure.
And there's someone else in the LA team is actually having an event. If you're able to make it, that would be great as well. So yes. Okay.
Mel,
Any other questions from the chat you want to read out?
Yes, there's an amazing question that we should probably send to the Prime Minister of St. Kitts, because I'm seeing a lot of questions to do with CARICOM, and they're so important that I feel we could pass that on. He's not here to answer that, but I don't know if there's
We'll pass it on.
Karen? Yeah? Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you. Our Caribbean Regional Director, Camille, my namesake. It's always a pleasure to have you on, and I'm so happy we went ahead with this regional program, which you extended the invitation to the global community. So thank you, Camille. Thank you, Jonathan, for being our fearless leader. We are exactly 3 more minutes to close. If there are any more, thank you, OBRF, for dropping your email. Lydia, thank you so much. Lofty, thank you so much for the work that you're doing at Lofty as well. Congratulations to your team for your recognition.
Well, could I mention that
much everyone who's been here?
Could I mention
anyone
that
else?
we
All
want
right, go ahead.
We want to include Carnival, Trinidad Carnival on the MIPAD, please, right?
Absolutely. I see Ryan. Ryan, there's also a Ryan here. Ryan, you have can you please type your question in, or just very quickly, you have the mic. Go ahead.
All right, can y'all hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead, Ryan.
All right,
yes.
Perfect. Camille, it's great to see you.
Where are you dialing in from?
Canada. You remember we talk all the time. We talk last
fantastic.
time. Yes. So just to ask, how could we also integrate proper frameworks as what I call, if you probably know, I use the term AFRILAC for Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean. How can we use that to turn that into a unified block similar to the EU? Because I believe that, as I call it, AFRILAC is the future because of the fact that we have the intellectual capabilities, the strategic political governance coming from the Caribbean, as well as the ability of the engagement of the resources and the as well for food security, as well as the other things that the world needs. How can we use that to engage with ourselves strategically so that we become a powerful force? As I like to say, it is better for us to come almost like the African elephant or the African buffalo when engaging with the African lion compared to being the African gazelle, which has to be at the mercy of the lions, especially when discussing peace treaties. So that is the thing that I wanted to discuss. And
No, absolutely, Ryan. Thank you so much for, for that. Let's keep talking. Now you're in touch with the Caribbean Regional Director, with the Global CEO. These are the conversations that we want to continue to have. We have exactly 1 more minute so that we can let you all go back to your Saturday. But thank you to the MIPAD team, to everyone who made today possible. Thank you to Francisco. Thank you so much. Everything that happened here stays here. Please, let's also ensure the privacy of some of our honorees, because families are still in Venezuela. So thank you so much. You do exist. I think that's the most important thing. And you're not alone. My final word to each and every one of you, wherever you're dialing in from, just know that you're not alone. And that's what this global network creates, a platform and a forum for you to stay connected, know what's happening, and be safe out there. All right. So God bless. And thank you so much. Jonathan, you give us the final word.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just want to say a big thank you so much to everyone who joined the call today, and the knowledge shared, the panelists from, we've mentioned their names. I won't go through every single person. I know we're at the hour. So I just want to say a big thank you. Thank God for this opportunity. Thank you to the team for making this happen, and everyone for their insights and questions. Now, if you want to continue to follow up, please visit or email info@mipad.org or jonathan@mipad.org if you want to get directly in touch with myself. And I'm looking forward to seeing you at our 2026 events, or partnering with us for our 2026 events. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.